Today, I am joined by Bianca de la Garza over at Newsmax to go through some of the biggest stories in the news. Bianca, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Steven, it's great to be back with you and your viewers. Thanks for having me.
So, I appreciate you taking time. I've got so many things that I want to pick your brain on. The first thing I want to jump into, we've dealt with this tragedy of Charlie Kirk. Covering that was really hard on me as a journalist. I'm sure it was hard on you as a journalist. Now we're finding out the judge is saying, hey, we want full transparency. This is not going to be a trial behind closed doors. Some people are seeking the death penalty. Others just go to jail for life. Everything's going to be public. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I first with you, I mean, it was just horrifying that day covering it, and having to announce his death. It's just we were all so shaken, and I know you've met him as well, and just the weeks that have passed to see the country sort of try and move forward in a way that hopefully the political rhetoric is taken down. But you're right, the trial is going to be a spectacle. We got to see his defense counsel for the first time, and she says he's going to be in court on October 30th. That's the next time the hearing is. It won't be virtual. I think that there's a real concern that I know that Erica Kirk has said she's not going to weigh in, but what the prosecutors want obviously will be the death penalty. And to hear this judge, you're right, Stephen. I mean, there's questions about, still, I think the motive, there's questions. We know that it was politically involved, but who was on these Discord channels? Like how many other people were kind of aware of some of these conversations? I mean, there's a mountain of evidence. She may try to come at it and attack it. It's going to be an uphill battle for her, but think about this. The other thing that stuck with me is all of this is taxpayer funded, which is just the process, but they're going to hire forensic experts. They're going to try to poke a hole in this mountain of evidence that they have, because that's really her only job, I think, is to keep him off death row. And it's going to be an expensive, long process. I think could be, months and years. And I pray that there is justice served. And I know a lot of people look back to the Kohlberger trial when there was a plea deal. And so there's going to be, I think a lot of twists and turns before we get there. But, transparency is not a bad thing, but let's just face it, there's still a lot of questions about, who was talking to this guy. I mean, there's Discord channels. I mean, you were watching all of that, and there's, I'm glad that the roommate's cooperating, the transgender man. How long will that happen?
Yeah.
We don't know, right?
Yeah.
I don't know these witnesses.
I have some inside information that I'll share with you and also my audience. So I was able to connect with Lance Twig's cousin, and Lance Twig has basically gone into witness protection with the FBI. Nobody knows where he is except for the mom and the dad. They've all basically gotten out of southern Utah because of death threats, worries that he might not cooperate. So at this point, I don't know whether he is a witness against Tyler Robinson or if they're still digging in, but my understanding is he is pulled out and questioned on a regular basis to try to get information. As you mentioned, we're still trying to get to the full motive and the full story, but connecting with the cousin was very interesting to hear. Yes, this is a very Republican family. They say that they are confused by his behavior the last couple of years. He has not behaved like they expected him to, wanting to transition to a female, feeling like any kind of Republican values were encroaching on his new ideology and lifestyle. So again, it's going to be an uphill battle to get to the truth, but we've got Tyler Robinson. They've got the screwdriver on the roof. They've got a shoe print on the roof. They've got a hand palm print as he jumps down. I mean, there's a lot going against this guy. And yet, with Kash Patel and them now locking this thing down in order to get this conviction, all of these conspiracy theories are going wild on the internet.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you got to a relative of Twig's, and it was revealing too when they, first had one of those early news conferences, Stephen, and they showed that text message and, where he's like, you're not the one who did it. And, sort of that back and forth. It's got to be incredibly painful for the family, being at the center of all this. And I had heard a report that he was sort of missing or has gone underground. And that makes perfect sense because I would think that there could be a lot of death threats against him, and keeping him alive is certainly paramount. And, to the, not just, obviously we don't want to see any more lives lost, but to this case. And if he's cooperating, I mean, that confession too will come up, I believe. And if they're going to be able to use it, according to my legal folks, sometimes they're going to say it's hearsay, but they don't need it. You're right. There's so much other evidence. There's also this report, I don't know if you've looked into it, that there's a cell phone conversation. Some outlets are reporting where they picked up a cell phone where Robinson used it on the campus. So another thing linking him to being there, to calling it. It might have been trying to retrieve that gun before he left, which he ultimately was unsuccessful in doing. But overall, there's just sort of the sadness that this has sort of enveloped our nation in, because you go forward from this, and we know that Turning Point USA, the chapters are growing, the movement's not going anywhere. There's so many young, thoughtful people in the conservative movement that were touched by Charlie that move forward. But I think the real question is the Democrats and the left, they don't seem to be able to control their hate, their vitriol. They say, oh, let's stop demonizing. And then, in the same breath, they're attacking President Trump. And what we're seeing at ICE facilities too is extremely alarming to me as well. And I'm just, thinking, how many more people have to die at an ICE facility because these, sanctuary cities and governors want to make it look like the people have a right to protest? No, they're attacking federal agents. So it's upside down when it comes to that as well, and the rule of law. And, all of this is sort of a combustible feeling in our nation right now. It feels like, the tinderbox, when a lot of conservatives just want to actually go through peaceful dialogue, and getting there just seems to be like, man, how do we do this?
Yeah. Yeah. That peaceful dialogue is important. Yet we have Congressman Eric Swallwell of California. He went on CNN and made a very open threat. Anyone that goes after Comey, anyone that goes after anybody that Trump wants to have accountability from, we are making a list and we're going to go after you. Let's watch this together.
And by the way, the president's saying he has no control here. He has all of the control here. He's the one who has been tweeting to the attorney general that Comey needs to be indicted. He's the one that fired the U.S. attorney who would not indict Comey. And so this is a very, very corrupt, corrosive act that the president is taking. And what I would just say to any prosecutor at the Department of Justice is it's not going away. As a member of the Judiciary Committee, I promise you, when Democrats are in the majority, we are going to look at all of this, and there will be accountability, and bar licenses will be at stake in your local jurisdiction if you are corruptly indicting people where you cannot prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
So, I mean, this is kind of a form of blackmail and, threats. If you're going after, so the narrative is nothing bad happened to Donald Trump. Now he wants revenge. But if you guys get revenge, we're keeping a list and we're going to get even worse revenge. We'll come after your bar license. We'll come after your business. Your thoughts on him just openly saying we're making a list and we're going to come after you?
Yeah, and no pushback at all, of course, from CNN and the anchor. It's almost like they want to erase everything that they did while President Trump was running for election, and the indictments that they threw at him, the laws they changed so E. Jean Carroll could come forward with this, BS, case against him funded by George Conway, and she was raped, but couldn't remember a time or a day. I'm pretty sure as a woman you would remember that moment. I mean, all of it is absolutely incredible that they want to just put that away. And to your point, the comments he's saying is like, this is going to be retribution. So continuing it on and on. I think here's where the rub is. I know the left is going to grab onto that President Trump truth and say, well, he just wants revenge. But when you actually peel away and look at the facts and what Comey told Grassley and later was re-questioned by Cruz, I mean, if you look at where we are, some are saying, Stephen, that 2-page indictment is sort of throwing it off, that there might be superseding indictments because there were some declassified documents, which, recently under Grassley and the FBI and the Arctic Haze. And it's very well known that Comey did have somebody that he had used to bring media leaks. He hired somebody, Richmond, to go in and be a special envoy to the government, gave him full classified. So he was giving information to a liaison. And a lot of people are looking at this saying, well, wait a second, this could be about the Russia collusion. It could also be about Hillary's emails. So things that were being leaked. It's not really too far of a jump to say that he was leaking things to the media, and his questions right there, no, no, no. So if there is text messages, or if they get to, there's something with Andy McCabe, and, we know that there was a different story being told, I think Comey could be in serious trouble. Again, we have to wait. We have to let the process play out. But Swalwell's it's pure. This is why the media there's no trust in left-wing media. This is why CNN's ratings are collapsing, because, for him to go out there and say that this is retribution is preposterous, and that they're going to get ready to, what I say, go at it, because, I don't know what they could actually throw at President Trump that they haven't tried to already. He's already been successful. I mean, now we're hearing, to go in a whole other tangent, is that, all the FBI agents were in the crowd at January 6th. So they want to play this game. I mean, we've got 3 years now, at least minimum, and hopefully, much more, because I think JD Vance will be great in 2028, or Marco Rubio. But, they want to go down this path here. I say it's welcome. I really, I'm not afraid of anything that some of these Democratic folks are saying, because the American people, and people who watch people who watch Newsmax, are so in tune with the reality. They don't trust it. They don't trust the media, and they don't trust the left-wing politicians at all.
Yeah. And yet, I'm going to show you a clip from Rosie O'Donnell. She's
Okay.
saying that the left-leaning media should actually be going more aggressive on Trump, holding him even more accountable. And then she comes after people like you, professional newscasters, saying that you're what's wrong. Let me play this clip, and then we'll break it down and talk about it together.
Okay.
You're a newscaster, but I got to tell you, when they run the UN speech,
you're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
and they don't come back and say, that was insane. Did you hear what the president did? That's what we need from the newscasters, but they kick you right out. Terry Moran, Jim Acosta, see ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. You dare stand up to the Fuhrer? You bet your ass you do. And if you don't stand up now, we're going to be like Nazi Germany.
Oh,
So,
best
Rosie
people,
O'Donnell.
one of the best people, Nicole Wallace podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
I loved the speech.
Bless her heart. So, I mean, you're a newscaster. You're the one that she's coming after. Why would Trump telling countries at the UN, if you keep allowing your country to be flooded with illegals that have nothing in common with your culture and just abuse and live off of taxpayer money, your countries will go to hell? What is wrong with that? What does she expect you to disagree with that?
Yeah. And, from her perch in Ireland, she left for a reason. Just stay there. Stop. You don't want to be involved in U.S. politics. You want to criticize now from afar. I thought you were getting away from the United States to sort of disengage. Yet they're so desperate to stay relevant. Like, without Trump, they literally don't have a life. Like, they have nothing to feed off of. It is a sickness. I loved his speech at the UN because I think a lot of European nations are actually seeing this. That's why they're upping their defense spending to NATO. That's why they're actually realizing that mass migration causes major issues, not just economic, but some of the terror attacks we've seen. And it's been frightening to actually see some of the concern now bleeding over here because, we have a situation where the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan is telling a Christian, who's upset that they want to name a street after Hamas leader, like, I want to have a parade. You're not welcome here. You're anti-American. You're anti-Muslim. We have people who don't want to assimilate. We welcome in immigrants. Europe has major problems. So President Trump was right to call that out because he's correcting it here. I mean, we are the most powerful country in the world. The world looks to President Trump. The world is looking at what he's done in this short time. He's taken back the White House, Stephen, and it's incredible, right? So we got our borders under control, but he talks about what's happening. People aren't disagreeing. And the energy piece is a major, major piece of this, not only funding the war in Russia and Ukraine, but the climate hoax. And, the fact that now people are dying, they can't afford air conditioning. He called that out as well. The crazy EV mandates, which we're ending here, but Europe's green energy sort of cult is bringing them to such a terrible, frightening position where they are losing so much of their control, and people who are living there are helpless. I mean, God help the European Union. And they're, in a way, he says, I love the Europeans. He was very warm about that. And, for Rosie to say those things, it takes so much courage for a president to get up and talk that way. Joe Biden would have never had that courage. Everyone else just sort of appeases. And Donald Trump is going to call balls and strikes. So she doesn't like it. There's no love lost between them. And, the fact that she actually, I run clips from her too sometimes, because it is sort of like confusing to me. It's like, you hate this man. Do you have anything else to do in your life? I just feel bad for people like that. It's just, and Nicole Wallace just feeding that hatred, feeding that criticism, because she hates President Trump too. So, I mean, to me, that's why, again, I said their ratings are failing, but they are. And I also think we're going to see a big alignment in media. I mean, podcasts, obviously, like yours. This is where people are going to get news. They're going to journalists, they're going to podcasters, because they don't want to hear the elites and the corporate media, spoon feeding them fake news. They just don't. It's done. It's over. The conservative voices that are now controlling, the airwaves, the podcasts, that's the dominant media in the future.
Yeah. Cryptocurrency is on fire. And here's huge news. Trump Media just signed a massive $6.4 billion deal with Yorkville Acquisition Corp and Crypto.com, the crypto platform trusted by millions of users worldwide. They're teaming up to acquire up to $6.4 billion in CRO to establish America's first CRO treasury, Trump Media Group CRO strategy. Once complete, this new company will be the largest publicly traded CRO holder out there. Ready to join the crypto revolution? Head to crypto.com today and be part of this historic move. That's crypto.com. Don't wait. For more information on the proposed business combination, check out Yorkville Acquisition Corp's public filing. What about her, saying that by you guys not calling this out, you're supporting the Fuhrer, and that MAGA is Nazis. This is Nazism. Like, they keep using this language to the point where someone wants to go kill someone because your words lead them to want to take action.
And there's no accountability for any of that. You're right. I mean, it's a great point. And, Hillary Clinton did the same thing on Morning Joe a few days ago too, where she's like, we need to tone it down, except and then she starts, at the same breath. I don't know why she thinks that we need to come on as newscasters and critique the president for saying things that are true, that are real. We don't live in an alternate reality like a celebrity who leaves the country who, has been brainwashed into hating President Trump. I think most Americans, the ones who decided this election in a landslide, electoral college and the popular vote, understand that this is all steeped in logic. This is about not having open borders, criminals unvetted, unchecked, terrorists in your countries. I mean, that's just pure and simple fact. And energy independence is national security. And we're seeing that with the money that, Russia's using to fund its war when its countries, even like NATO countries. And, that's the thing. It's like, they're all culpable in this. And President Trump is the only one with the cojones to call them out to their faces and say, the UN, what is your point? How many leaders would walk in and say that and call it out to their faces? And Stephen, we all also knew that he would give a blistering speech because it had been 6 years. So I think, for her to make her little opinion on newscasters, she didn't go to journalism school. She's not a journalist. She's an entertainer. And she's somebody who is so biased, who, again, if you're not living in the real world, you can listen to Rosie O'Donnell. Everyone has a right to listen to Nicole Wallace's podcast, but you have to understand that is an echo chamber that is causing a sickness. And it has led to violence, and it has led to people being killed, and it has fed to fomenting some of these protests that we are seeing, where now people are getting killed. People are getting killed. A sniper sat on the roof of a building and started firing at detainees and an ice van. I mean, that's how far this has gone, where people just think they can get a gun, scribble something on the ammunition, and be out there shooting at people. It is frightening in a way, but I actually have a lot of hope. I don't come at things with that all is lost. I really don't. I think with domestic terrorism, I think, working to get Antifa labeled as domestic terrorists, I think what he's doing with the cartels and Venezuela and blowing up these boats in international waters, these things reverberate. These things send a message. We had Joe Biden sending no message. Come into our country, be a terrorist. We don't care. We don't care what country you're from. Now Donald Trump is saying, you're coming here. We're either going to get you out, or if you're coming here with drugs, we will blow up your boat. They are watching. They are listening. And even, like I said, the European leaders who were in that room, they knew Donald Trump was right about a lot of these things. They know it, but they've been held captive to this crazy cult of climate. And that's why you see even Germany now wants to up some of their national defense. They want to have more soldiers. So yeah, I hate some of the things that are being said by people like Rosie O'Donnell, but they have a right to say it. She has a right to her opinion, even though it is so crazy. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. And I guess I'm hopeful though that some celebrities are coming forward and maybe even like going on Bill Maher's show and other people. And I saw Whitney Cummings, who was a comedian, saying that she used to be a libtard and then she had a kid and she realized, oh wait, I need to get a gun. Now she's not a household name, but every day I feel like we're getting more of those folks in the celebrity culture. Not Jimmy Kimmel, obviously, but it's in a way it's fascinating to see it sort of kind of falling apart with some of the left, because we know that they use celebrity to sort of drive this Marxist message and the division, and they sow it through, whether it be, from the river to the sea, the Oscars, or how they use sort of celebrity culture to get people, mass indoctrination. And Rosie O'Donnell, she had her time. She's not a celebrity anymore, but she is holding on for dear life, Stephen.
Yeah, she is. You brought up Antifa. I wanted to get your thoughts. I feel like President Trump labeling Antifa as a terrorist organization was a huge move. My hope is that not only will we be able to go in and get this situation under control, but it will also stop the people who have been funding Antifa to go, we can't convince people this is an idea anymore. Now we would actually be funding terrorism. Your thoughts on him labeling them a terrorist organization?
Yeah, long time coming. And we all watched the cities burning after George Floyd and the riots and the insanity. It's a huge step. I know legally there's going to be some pushback to try to do that, but I also know he's looking at all the dark money groups and the NGOs funding it, because clearly this is organized. And I do believe when you're looking at what's happening in Portland, you're looking what's happening in Chicago, and even some of these smaller towns like Broadview, which is 15 miles outside of Chicago, everyone's showing up and they have incendiary devices, they have masks, they're ready to they're armed, they're ready to go. They just pulled 2 guns off people that showed up in Chicago the other night, and an incendiary device. So where are they getting these? These are all coordinated. There's no accidents with any of this. And they're paid agitators. They're terrorists. They are looking to wreak havoc, to cause harm. And it has to stop. I think that where we go next is seeing the National Guard that is allowed legally to go into any city and protect federal buildings, which now ICE facilities are included. I'm really optimistic that some of this may actually be tamped down. And I also think with the FBI being very clear that they're going to be looking at some of the funding of these organizations to try and shut it down, because if the money's shut down, the groups ultimately are shut down. So there is, I don't think it'll happen overnight, Stephen, but I do think that this is incredible that now it is happening. And, even Stephen Miller, it was fascinating when he said something Charlie Kirk told him, I think it was just a few days before his assassination. And he said, we got to talk about these domestic terror groups and where the money's coming from, because we know they're so organized, and we know that it is coming from places like China, just like all the NGOs were funding all the people coming in through the border as well, and getting people legal help the minute they came over here, and allowing mass amnesty. unchecked and unvetted, people to come in and now claim that they deserved all these to stay here, to work, to get free stuff. And, Antifa has taken root also in our education system as well. The people who are indoctrinating the kids, it's hand in hand with some of those professors who are going in and talking about the oppressed and the white male oppressor and anti-capitalism. And, we could even go into Mandami and some of this socialism. But, Antifa has for too long been able to function as a terror group in our country, destroy businesses, homes, people who will never be able to rebuild after riots, took down. They're not rebuilding. These are mom and pop stores that were decimated. Big box stores will be fine. Doesn't matter if you're, a big store, but your little mom and pop stores that gets, people just decide to go through and, in Portland, just, chop city, ruin your property. I also do think part of this is elections have consequences, Stephen. So when we look at, what the administration can do with domestic terrorism and funding, they also have to stop voting for these mayors for sanctuary cities. Tonight, the mayor of Portland is going to come out and have a news conference. If you really want law and order in your city, in your town, it really starts at the local level to make sure these people are not continuing to hold office with these types of policies, because you will never get it. You will never get safety in your streets if you have people that are running your cities who do not want you to be safe.
Yeah. What you travel the country, you talk to a lot more people than I do. What is your sense of the optimism or pessimism of the GOP holding the majority after the 2020 election?
I think there is, and I just got back from, I'm sure you speak to a lot of folks too. I just got back from a conference in Orlando, National Federated Republican Women. So about 1,200 women all across from all different states, Maryland, Nevada, Arizona, Montana, Florida. It was in Florida. And I think that there's a sense of they all are grassroots. So they're really on the front lines, and they know that there is unpopular. They know the Democrats have no leadership, right? We all see that who it is. Is it AOC? Is it, socialist Mandami? And the messaging that the Democrats have is bad. But I think the concern is just making sure that the corrupt media doesn't continue to spread lies. And so I moderated a panel with some folks at Daily Caller and Breitbart just a few days ago. And we're sort of giving people how to empower when you're at a school board meeting. Make sure you have your phone. You have to be on the offensive, right? You have to call it out when you see something happening in your town, because these women are so powerful and they're so plugged in. So when they see somebody pushing a transgender idea, they have to make sure this is a public forum, that they are armed with the facts too. And I think there's a lot of enthusiasm. Like, even if Mandami wins New York, let it happen. Some people are saying, let them continue to eat themselves, to double down on these 80-20 issues, which are really, we know, 90-10 issues. Let them continue to push the trans, and let them continue to basically self-destruct. Because it is getting to the point where even people who were kind of on the left are now looking at whether it be a Ukrainian refugee who's stabbed in Charlotte and going, wait a second, that is America. And that is a guy who was, picked up 14 times. Now we're starting to see a conversation, which is, wait a second, maybe this has gone completely off the rails. So I think that the base is super strong. People who are MAGA are like, this is not going anywhere. We're in this. We've got a great bench. I mentioned JD, who's out there too, talking, such sense and calling out the media real time. And last week, he had to call out an NBC report that said a 5-year-old was held hostage by ICE. And he said to the NBC reporter to their face, actually, the illegal dad ran away from the ICE agent. So the little girl was basically alone, and she was taken in by ICE so she wouldn't be on the street. But erroneous reporting is a really big deal. But you and I are a part of that as well. We can correct the record. We can continue to push it out. But I think that there is a sense of, I think that the Democrats are going to continue to go down a path where they are going to have, especially if they shut down the government too, right? And that could happen. They're going to have a really hard time coming back on some of these unpopular issues.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, final question. The last time I had you on, you had your book Incoming. It did very, very well on the front lines of the left's war on truth. Tell my audience about that book.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephen. Yeah, I was really proud to put it out. It came out 2 weeks before the election with Donald Trump, and it really now reads just like history. And when I started writing it, I didn't know we'd have not one but two attempts on President Trump's life. I didn't know that Joe Biden would drop out and it would be Kamala, and these, the debates that are now these iconic moments: President Trump at McDonald's, President Trump in a dump truck, President Trump with the lawfare. So I was really proud to have sort of a firsthand account to this. I believe it was the most consequential election in our lifetime and in several generations, where we almost lost our country. So yeah, it was an Amazon bestseller, and it's hard. A lot of the conservative books are silenced, as you know, and New York Times bestseller. You can't even go by any of that, because the voices that are conservative of they don't want to actually be fair and actually where these books are. But it was such a blessing and an honor. And I'm starting to work on a second book to be discussed, maybe if you have me back on again. But I think that's sort of where we're at. Like, we are on the front lines of the left's war on truth. And fortunately now, though, we actually have an administration and a runway for the next few years to continue on with protecting the American people. And it does start a lot with the strong borders, and then it feeds on to having people be able to afford their lives again. The one big beautiful bill, and the tax cuts that people are really going to feel, and real wages are up. And I'm really happy that we're seeing Americans being able to sort of thrive again, because there's nothing more important than people being able to, not feel like they're on the hamster wheel. You have kids, I have a daughter. We're all just trying to make sure our kids and the next generation set up. And, for too long, parents, I think, were sort of feeling very exhausted by a lot of things that were happening. And, I think the nuclear family is something they've wanted to destroy. So if people can get their wages back, gas is affordable, you can afford a home, you can afford the American dream. People are going to be inspired, excited. And I want young people to be excited too. I want people to be entrepreneurs. I want them to have American exceptionalism, to breathe life into this country, because we are, when President Trump says we're back, Stephen, I mean, we really are. The world is looking at us and our leadership, and it has been a 180. And I'm so grateful that, we have President Trump in the Oval Office back again. And I know that we're on the right course. And I'm really, like I said, optimistic. So let's see what happens in the midterms. Let's see how low the Democrats will go. To your point, which was excellent early on, their rhetoric, Swalwell, I don't think they have another playbook. I really don't think they do. Well, we stand on the truth. We stand on the light. And they stand on sort of these dirty tricks that have gotten them into a very bad place in this country. But they're not in control anymore, thank God. And some of the messaging, thank God, they're not in control of either. So I'm grateful for voices like yours.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's interesting that their number one message is, we're not Donald Trump, but then Donald Trump's succeeding. So what's the real message? We're not succeeding. So, like, why would you vote to fail? So this has been a great conversation. If people want to catch you on Newsmax or online, where can I point them towards?
Oh, awesome. Great. So I am on Newsmax every day, 12 to 2 East Coast, and 4 to 5 on our streaming network, Newsmax 2. And then I'm on social media at Bianca Della Garza official on Instagram, and on Twitter at Bianca DL Garza, and my website, biancadellagarza.com. So people can definitely find me, watch me, tune in. I'm really grateful that we get to do what we do every day. I feel like it's never been as important to get the truth out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put those direct links down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. And thanks to your viewers as well. It's always a great conversation with you, Stephen.